Hey guys, what's up? It's Debbie, and I am back with more true crimes of criminal minds. Welcome to my channel. If you've never been to my channel before, what I do is I look at an episode of Criminal Minds and then I talk about a true crime case. And the case that I talk about was either mentioned in the episode, similar to the episode, or sometimes the episode was actually based on the case. And to my returning viewers, hey guys, love y'all. I want to apologize. I did not mean to take so long of a break. I hope y'all had a great New Year's Eve. My wonderful husband got me a microphone, so hopefully my sound will be better. And I am so excited for this new year. We are almost to season 3 of Criminal Minds. Almost. We have a few more left in season 2. And I'm going to skip what would have been our next episode in season 2. It's episode 20, and it is called Honor Among Thieves. And it's a mob. It's about the Russian mob. And I don't know why, but I'm just not into mob stories. I never have been. I've never seen The Godfather. I've never seen The Sopranos. It's just not my thing, and I don't know why. I sincerely do not know why. But we're going to skip it because I couldn't find any cases that interested me about the Russian mob. So now we're going to skip to episode 21 of season 2, and it is called Open Season. Today's episode is about 2 brothers that kidnap people, then let them go in the woods. They give them a head start, and then they hunt them down with crossbows. It is extremely horrific, just like all of the Criminal Minds episodes content. But these guys get a taste of their own medicine. The victim in this episode is a badass, and she turns the tables on these guys. And it is beautiful to watch. So just for purely the episode itself, this is one of my favorites. Not because of any actors from other series that are in it or anything specific with the characters. It's just a really good crime story. So today I'm going to be talking about Robert Hansen, a serial killer that became known as the Butcher Baker. Let's get into it. Robert Christian Hansen, also known as Bob, was born in 1939 in Esterville, Iowa, to Danish immigrant parents Christian and Edna. Early in his childhood, his family moved to Pocahontas, Iowa, where his parents ran a bakery. Bob was made to work long hours with his father, learning the ropes of a successful bakery. He had no close friends and was bullied in school. He was left-handed but made to write with his right hand, which caused a stutter. He did have a stutter, but I think it's been debunked that it's caused from being made to use the non-dominant hand. My mom was born in 1931, and she was left-handed, and she said she got her left hand smacked with a ruler every time she tried to write with it, but she didn't have any vocal tics or stutters or anything like that. So, and yeah, I know these are only 2 cases, but I think that they have decided that they don't know what causes a stutter. Bob had bad acne, which left him with a pock-marked face, and he was terribly bullied at school, and he hated it. But he stuck it out, and he graduated in 1957. After high school, he joined the U.S. Army Reserves, serving 1 week in a month, and he became a skilled marksman. And that is a title, skilled marksman. My dad was a highway patrolman, and one of his pins on his uniform said skilled marksman, which I think is cool. I have never shot a gun, though. I'm not a gun person. I don't know anything about guns. In 1960, he got married, which I imagine it was kind of hard for him to date because he was a loner and didn't have a lot of social skills. But good for him, he got married in 1960. And he worked at his parents' bakery and served as a voluntary assistant drill sergeant for the police academy in Pocahontas. I didn't know that police academies had volunteer drill sergeants. That seems weird to me. He had hated school so badly that he decided he wanted to do something to hurt the school. So on December 7th of 1960, he and a friend decided to burn down the school's bus garage. His friend got very nervous about the whole thing, and he told the police that he and Robert Hansen had set the fire. Hansen was sentenced to 3 years in prison, and his wife divorced him, but he only served 20 months of that sentence. While in prison, he was diagnosed with an infantile personality. I don't know what that means. I have never heard. I mean, obviously, it probably means that he was immature, I guess. But I've never, ever heard of that. Like, that is not in the DSM. In 1963, he married again, and they moved to Anchorage, Alaska, to get a new start in life. There they had 2 kids, and Hansen originally worked as a baker for a supermarket before starting his own bakery. In 1971, Hansen was driving when a car with a pretty girl in it pulled up and was waiting at the same red light as he was. She smiled at him, so the only logical thing to do was to follow her home. Because she likes me. She smiled at me. Can you imagine having a mindset like that? Like, oh my God, the entitlement. She was 18-year-old Susan Heppard, and she was a real estate secretary. He knocked on her door. Now, he must have hung back a little bit or waited a little while when he got to the house because she was in the shower. And when she opened the door, she had just gotten out of the shower and she was only covered up in a towel. So there's some time in here that's not accounted for. But because she answered the door in only a towel, in his mind, that put her in the category of sex worker. Now, the ruse knocking on the door was to ask to use a phone book, which back then, yeah, you would get people knocking on your door to use your phone, but not a phone book. And if there are pay phones around, they had phone books in them. And yes, I know these things don't exist anymore. I'm not speaking Greek. A payphone. You put a quarter in it, and then you could call, as long as it was local. And they used to be on street corners all over the place. And if you called long distance, you had to put in a lot more quarters. A voice would come on and say, "Please deposit more money." I'm so glad everybody has a phone in their pocket now. Hansen told the cops he didn't hate women. He did not hate all women, but sex workers were beneath him. So he saw them as second-class citizens because some of his victims were topless dancers, bottomless dancers, sex workers. They were all bad women in his eyes. So the next morning, again, just the logical thing to do, he waited in front of her house till she came out, and he had a gun. This man, oh my God, this man. So the roommate saw him outside with a gun and called the police. So I guess he figured something's up. She's not coming out of the house. I don't hear anything. There's no noise getting ready to go to work. None of that. Like, it was still and quiet. And he's like, uh-oh, I got to get out of here. So he starts just walking. I don't know where his car was, but he starts just walking down the street. The police arrived and they had a canine unit. And the dog tracked Hansen to where he was walking down the street. And Hansen claimed that he had blacked out and didn't know where he was or what he was doing. He was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, and he was released on a PR bond. Now, a PR bond is personal recognizance, and you don't have to pay any money to get out of jail. But they put a money amount, like, $10,000, $20,000, whatever. So if you violate your parole conditions, then when you go back to court, you have to either pay that money or go to jail. So that's what a PR bond was. And at this time, he just got a PR bond. And this was when police decided to create a sex offender book. And they put Hansen's picture in the very first page. 1 month later, now he's out on parole on a PR bond, but he doesn't care. 1 month later, he offered Patty Roberts, an exotic dancer, $200 to sit for a photo shoot. And he never took them straight out of the clubs. If he went to a club and wanted an exotic dancer, he would talk to them, say, I'll give you so much money for oral or photo shoots or whatever ruse he was using, whatever he was coming up with. And then he would go somewhere where he could watch everywhere, so he could make sure nobody was coming, nobody could see them, and they would meet up at their arranged meeting place. And that night, he told Patty Roberts to meet him at a nearby cafe. When she showed up, he forced her into his car at gunpoint and tied her up with shoelaces. He took her 3 hours south of Anchorage to the Sunrise Hotel and essayed her. She begged for her life, telling him that she was a single mother and if he let her go, she wouldn't tell anyone. What she didn't tell him was that her dad was a state trooper. So he let her go, and he said, I will kill your family if you tell anyone. So, of course, she did just that. Patty Roberts went to the police and told them what happened. She was shown the sex offender book, and she ID'd Hansen right off the bat. He was arrested, and a psychological exam was done. And I read 2 different diagnoses. One was schizophrenia, and one was bipolar. I don't know if he had both, or if he had one or the other. So I don't know if one of the sources were incorrect or if they were both right and he had both illnesses. But anyway, he was diagnosed and he was prescribed medication. But he was not required to take it. So even though he had been diagnosed, had a prescription, he was not medicated for his schizophrenia and or bipolar, whichever one he had. Patty Roberts' case was dismissed because she was an exotic dancer. And this is why these people abduct prostitutes and strippers, and because so many people look at them as being second-class citizens, and they don't realize that these people have parents, spouses, children, people that love them and don't want to see them come to any harm. And they just think, oh, it'll just get swept under the rug because they're a sex worker. And that is not true. Everybody deserves to live their life. He pleaded guilty to the assault with a deadly weapon on Susan Heppard. He was sentenced to 5 years, but only spent 3 months in jail, spending the rest of the time in a halfway house. And during this time, he was only allowed to drive to work and back, but he would sneak and watch the girls in the Tenderloin district. And he said he couldn't wait to do it again. Now, the Tenderloin district was I think it was 4th Avenue, and there were lots of clubs, topless, bottomless, all kinds of clubs with exotic dancers, and there were sex workers all over the place. It was the red light district. They called it the Tenderloin district. And it was right around the corner from his bakery. In 1976, he stole a chainsaw to give to his dad for his birthday. How do you steal a chainsaw? You can't just stick it in your pocket. Who does that? And Hansen had the money to buy the chainsaw for his dad, but he said he liked to get away with things. He thought he was getting one up on everybody by getting away with stealing, raping, murdering, etc. He was sentenced to 5 years, but was released on unsupervised parole after 16 months. 16 months. What is the point of unsupervised parole? He obviously doesn't care that he's on parole and has things that he has to do. Well, he didn't have to report because it's unsupervised. Seriously, please explain to me, somebody, what is the point of unsupervised parole? It does not seem feasible to me that works. On September 17th, 1981, 2 off-duty police officers were hunting near the Knik River when they found a body. She was identified as Sherry Morrow, a topless dancer that had been reported missing a year earlier by her boyfriend. It took 2 weeks to identify her. There was a .223 caliber shell next to her body. And the cops, they used this giant sifter thing to sift all the dirt around where she was to see if there were any other clues. Her boyfriend that reported her missing said she always wore a necklace with an arrow on it, but they didn't find it with her body. In September of 1983, another body was found with a .223 shell casing found near her body. She was identified as Paula Goulding, a 30-year-old dancer. Hansen offered her money before kidnapping and killing her. She was shot in the back, but there wasn't a bullet hole in her clothing, suggesting that she was naked when she was shot, and then she was redressed. On June 14th, 1983, a trucker was flagged down by a barefoot, handcuffed woman. Her name was Cindy Paulson. She told the trucker that she had been kidnapped at gunpoint and SA'd. She said that the man that had SA'd her was going to fly her out to his cabin. She was a sex worker, and he told her he would give her $200 for oral sex. Then she got in his car, he handcuffed her immediately, drove to his house, and chained her up in his basement after repeatedly raping her. And then he told her he was going to go take a nap before they left. He also told her that if she did everything that he wanted, that he would let her go home. The trucker drove her to the motel that she was staying at. She didn't want him to call the police. She just wanted to go back to the hotel and wait for her pimp. She had escaped while he was stocking his plane with supplies because he was going to fly her out to his cabin and hunt her. After the trucker dropped her off at the hotel, then he called the police, and the police showed up, and she told them everything that happened. And when they were taking her to the hospital to get the SA kit done, they happened to drive by the airport. And she said, that's the plane. That's the plane right there that he was going to put me in. So they stopped and they talked to somebody at the airport, and they found out Robert Hansen's name and his home address. And then the police took her by his house, and she ID'd it as the house that she was held in. She described it to a T. While the cops were there, I'm assuming that they took her to the hospital and then came back to the house because Hansen showed up. I think it would have been really irresponsible if the cops had just like left her in the cop car while they were looking at the house, because if he comes up while they're there, she faces her abuser again. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. Anyway, while the cops were at the house, Bob Hansen showed up. And when they told him why they were there, he denied it, and he showed them all around the house. He even saw the trophies in the basement, the animal heads, because he was an avid hunter. He even broke some records for bow hunting, but after his arrest, those awards were taken away from him. But he had trophies all over this basement. He also sold guns out of his bakery, which I find extremely strange. Oh, I'm going to go to the bakery, get me a donut and a pistol. Like, what? Why are you selling guns out of a bakery, dude? So the cops saw everything. She described it to a T. They saw the pole that she'd been chained to, everything. And Hansen told him, oh, I have an alibi. So he had 2 alibi witnesses, and they checked out, so no charges were made. And to get his friends to lie for him, I mean, technically he wasn't wrong, I guess, but he told his friends that he was with a sex worker and didn't want his wife to find out. His wife and kids seem to not be home a lot because all of this is going on. Some of it is covered up by the fact that he's a baker, and you have to go in at 3-4 o'clock in the morning to get the fresh bakery stuff done for the morning, for the next morning. So that was part of how he was able to sit there and stalk these women. But his wife and kids, one time they were visiting family in the States, and then another time they were on vacation in Europe. So I guess I don't know why he didn't go with them. I don't know if it was because he wanted the private time to get his jollies, or if he said, oh, I can't leave the bakery, or he might have just used that as an excuse as to why not to go. Oh, I have to stay because of the bakery. But anyway, he had lots of time to play his little games. Now the police had 2 bodies found out in the wilderness of Alaska connected by a 223 shell casing. And they wanted to talk to Cindy again, but she and her pimp had left the area. Back then, there was no internet, no databases like NCIC, etc. One police agency did not know what another agency was doing. And if the police had been able to connect all these cases, so many women would not have lost their lives. Alaska State Trooper Glenn Floethy got Hansen's case, and when he did, he called in the FBI for help. He called Agent John Douglas, who we all know and love if we're true crime fans, right? He is the OG criminal profiler. So he was called in to give a profile of the unsub. His profile was spot on as usual. He said that the unsub would have low self-esteem, a history of rejection, he'd be an experienced hunter, and he would have a religious wife. He said he would be living a double life, one life as an upstanding businessman and member of the community, and he said he might have a speech impediment, a stutter or a lisp. I don't know how they figure this out, but it's crazy. Remember way back in season 1, episode 2 of Criminal Minds, there was a long discussion about what causes a stutter and how Gideon knew that the footpath killer stuttered. So they don't know what causes a stutter. But like Gideon said, but I do know how to make one worse. And he got the guy all flustered, and that's how he caught him. But how did he know beforehand that he had a stutter? Like, how? I don't understand. It's like magic. It's like magic. Floethy got search warrants for Hansen's house, bakery, and plane. He was interrogated while the house was being searched. They searched everywhere, but they couldn't find the .223 caliber rifle. While police were at his house, a neighbor that saw what was going on called her husband, She was like, dude, you need to tell the cops the truth. So her husband had given an alibi for Hansen. So she told the cops the truth and told her husband, look, I'm going to go tell them the truth. You need to tell them the truth too. They continued searching and they still could not find the weapons. They found weapons, but not the one they were looking for. And then they sent someone up to search the attic. And this was where they found a cache of guns that he had hidden in the insulation of the attic. And they found the murder weapon. They also found a plastic bag with jewelry in it. And Sherry Morrow's arrow necklace that her boyfriend said she never took off was in that bag, as well as driver's license of his victims. Why do they do that? So many of these guys keep driver's license. That's a direct connection between you and that person. Why are you taking their driver's license? It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I know it's a trophy. I know the whole trophy thing. They like to go back and look at it and relive their crimes, whatever. But it's not a smart thing to do because it connects you. I mean, not that I'm trying to tell you how to get away with a crime or anything, but they found an aviation map behind Sped. It had 24 X's on it. He denied everything at first, and he said the X's on the maps, that was just good hunting spots where he liked to hunt. But one day in February of 1984, Hansen's attorney called the detectives on the case and told them that his client wanted to clear the deck. I've never heard that expression before, but I think it's like wipe the slate clean. That's what I would have said, but whatever. Hansen confessed to 17 murders and over 30 rapes. He confessed in exchange for a federal prison and no media publicity. I'm sure he didn't want all the people that thought he was a good man to know the truth. Yeah, how'd that work out for you, Bob? Everybody knows your name now. So these are just a couple of the victims that he confessed to. There was a body found near the Kinnick River near South Eklutna Lake Road. To this day, she has never been identified, and the police named her Eklutna Annie. Hansen said that she was his first, but investigators doubt that that's true. I don't know why they doubt that, but they doubt that that's true. He said that he picked her up for sex, and he drove out on a dirt side road. So he essayed her, and he was going to take her back, but when he was trying to leave, his car got stuck in the mud. She opened the car door and ran away, and he took off after her, and she pulled a knife on him. She had a knife for her protection, but then he took the knife and stabbed her to death with it. And then he said he cried. Seriously? Seriously. She was between 16 and 25 years old. Hansen claimed not to hate all women, only sex workers. He said that you could do stuff with them that you couldn't do with a good woman. He thought Susan Hepburn liked him because she smiled at him. But when he got to her house and she opened the door in only a towel, that put her in the category of sex worker. He even said, quote, "You can't rape a prostitute, can you?" End quote. In May of 1980, he met 23-year-old Joanne Messina. She was from New York and had studied to be a nurse, and she was camping in Alaska. Honestly, I have questions. She studied to be a nurse. Did she become a nurse? And why was she from New York but camping in Alaska? Like, I have questions. This whole situation seems off to me. But anyway, she was camping in Seward, Alaska, and that is where they met. And Bob talked to her, and she flirted back, and he thought that she liked him. Again, another smile from a pretty girl. He propositioned her, and she agreed. And he thought, oh, this person likes me. I can have a relationship. Why? You're married and have kids. Why are you looking for another relationship? You just want a mistress on the side or what? Like, this guy's not wired right. He's just. So she agreed to go have sex with him, but she asked for money to help her get back home, back to New York. So because she asked for money, she got put into the category of sex worker, and he shot her. And the POS also shot her dog, which makes me hate him even more. He shifted all the blame to the women, saying that he told them if he did what he wanted, that he would not kill them. He claims that he brought the cooperative women back and only killed the ones that didn't cooperate. He claims to have done this with at least 30 other women that he then released because they cooperated and did exactly what he asked them to do. He took the cops out to where the bodies were buried, and they marked the spot so they could find it again when the snow melted in the spring. They only found 12 bodies, even though he claimed to have killed 17. Now remember the map that they found behind his bed? The map that they found had 24 X's on it. How many more of them are still out there that have never been found? The remains that were found were exhumed and returned to their families for a proper burial. On February 18th, 1984, he received the maximum penalty, life plus 461 years. The judge was extremely disappointed with the police, calling them out for their failure. He said it was an indictment on humanity. Hansen was housed at Spring Creek Correctional Facility. He died on August 21st, 2014 at the age of 75. There's a movie about Robert Hansen. There's lots of documentaries out there, but there's a movie called Frozen Ground. And it's an older movie. I've only seen it once, but I remember liking it a lot. It's got John Cusack in it playing Hansen, and Nicolas Cage plays Trooper Glenn Floethy. And the director of the movie reached out to Floethy because, he wanted to get his facts straight. He wanted to get the real story. And Floethy actually consulted with them on the script. But he didn't want Nicolas Cage's character to be named after him because he didn't want any glory. He said he wasn't a hero. He was only doing his job. I got a lot of my information from Very Scary People. I love this show. It is hosted by Donnie Wahlberg, who played a very scary person in The Sixth Sense. So I love Donnie Wahlberg. He's one of my favorite actors. So if you want to see it, it's on Max and Discovery Plus. And there are 2 episodes about Robert Hansen, and the interviews with the police and the attorneys that actually worked on the case is excellent. I highly recommend it. And it also plays part of his taped confession. And you can hear his stutter get worse as it goes on. It's very, very chilling. So that's it for this week, guys. That is the story of Robert Hansen, the butcher baker. Probably the most infamous serial killer from Alaska. So subscribe, share, like, hit the bell for notifications, all the YouTubey things. And until next time, remember, be kind to people, love your family, and Jesus loves you. Have a great week. Bye.